I've got a hot take. If you go streaking and you have six-pack abs and I see you running around naked in public, jail time. I want jail time. And I'm not talking about that cushy, medium, minimum security nonsense they're doing out there in Collins. Not even because of the public indecency, but because it's just braggadocious to be like, hey, your day's going poorly? Check it out. Six-pack. Six-pack, and I'm cut all the way down. To another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And I've got a bone to pick. Do you know who it's with, Chris? I mean, I always have a bone to pick. I've always got a problem with people. Some people call it a personality flaw, a defect, a character flaw. There's a whole bunch of ways that even some people who can't order hot dogs online find my personality grating. I rub people the wrong way because I constantly have a problem with things. I'm never satisfied. I'm never really happy. I'm very cynical. I declare myself as, one of my favorites. I have it framed down by my desk in my home office. There's a demotivational poster of 3 glasses, and they're all filled with yellowish liquid. And on the left, it says optimists. And that cup is going, hey, I'm half full. And in the middle, there's the one that says pessimists, and it says, I'm half empty. And it has a sad face on it, and the little arms and legs. And then there's the third glass who's looking around going, I think this is piss. I'd like to think I'm the third glass. I'm just a realist. Okay? Well, what is there ever really to get excited about? So my attitude tends to rub people the wrong way. And in that way, Chris, since you've known me, how many times have I had beef with a person, place, or thing that you thought was irrational?
Say it all the time here. I've seen you yelling at a pizzeria on the phone while eating a slice of pizza from said pizzeria.
And the fun part about those conversations is they're like, okay, well, we'll fix it. I go, no. I don't want you to fix it. I'm already eating it. I just want you to know you were wrong. I'm garbage. With that said, this morning, I saw something that really rubbed me the wrong way. If you think about the history of just tailgating, like, Chris, how long have you been doing this with me now?
I believe it's 2017 was my first year because I was
there for the Jaguars game.
You know what? I was just telling somebody the other day. I was like, I tried to get season tickets in 16, and I called my buddy's ticket rep. And I said, I want to sit in 200. And they're like, not a chance. Like, those don't come open at all. So you're just going to sit on the waiting list. And I was like, all right, I'll sit on the waiting list. And then in 17, your ticket rep called you and go, hey, we got this extra seat just floating around next to you guys.
Why do you think it was open?
I was told last year that there were no seats in 200. I was just looking for one. And I could have had it in 16, but JP is a massive tool.
I know. I think it's more one of those things with the 2016 season. I think I burned a lot of people down. And I think that, Chris, sitting directly next to me during a football game, Dan Kimball, longtime friend, listener of the show, season ticket holder.
He definitely doesn't listen to this.
No, I hope not. He can speak firsthand to what it's been like being exposed to me 8 weeks a year for over a decade. It's rough. There's a reason I'm on a first name basis and now friends with the sheriff who oversee the section and our usher. Like, that doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Like, that doesn't come from nowhere.
Are you prepared to make how long it's going to take to make new relationships like that in the new stadium?
Probably not long. I have a tendency to find myself in conversations with authority figures as such. But no, this morning so you've been doing this now for at least 7 years.
Yeah.
You've been at least a part of this, and that's about half the time I've been doing it. You always had to get your beer the night before a 1 p.m. kickoff game. Because New York state law, or at least most normal purveyors of alcohol, would not allow you to purchase it in New York State before 8 a.m. So think about all the gymnastics that we've spent years doing, trying to figure out, like, okay, I don't have a garage fridge because I'm 25 and living in an apartment. I'm going to get coolers and I'm going to buy all this beer the night before and I'm going to try to ice it down, but I can't put it out in the hallway and I can't leave it outside my apartment. So I have to keep it indoors and then buy extra ice so I can keep icing it down throughout the evening. These were all like hoops of stupidity that I spent my life jumping through. I'm leaving Wegmans today. Do you know that they have a sign that says you can now purchase alcohol specifically on Saturdays and Sundays starting at 6 a.m.? I kicked a shopping cart, and I think the woman who saw me do it, she probably assumes I'm a madman. Do you know how angry seeing that sign made me? After all these years, now I'm an adult. I don't drink nearly as much as I used to. I don't drink half the amount of beer specifically that I used to. And yet this thing that could have saved me years of heartache and jumping through hoops is now just widely up for grabs to anybody.
Yeah.
These kids have no idea. Like, I'm an old man shaking his fist at clouds. You kids have no idea what the struggle was. I had to walk uphill both ways to school, in the sense that I had to figure out how to get and keep all of this beer cold for a 1 p.m. kickoff. And now what? You just waltz in and get it the morning of? The hell is this?
I have seen you before. This is back when we were in the mud lot where I don't even think it was beer related, but you forgot something and you told the lot owners, hey, I forgot something. I'll be right back. And you went to Tops at McKinley and Southwestern.
Yep.
And
it
then
was
came right back.
It was propane. And when I came back, the owner of the lot, Billy, BB of the famous BB sent me code word to get $5 off your parking at the mud lot. Nobody does it anymore. The mud lot. Hey, to the mud lot.
Mud lot.
I came back and he goes, hey, I've actually got a bunch of halfies rolling around in the garage if you want them. I was like, yeah, I want them. And sure enough, we go in his garage and he's got just dozens that he's just picked up from the parking lot over the years. And he's just like, I don't know, there's like 8 of them here. Just go through them. That's service. That died.
Where do you think he retired to? Because he sold a lot to the Bills
and
got coins. So.
I hope he bought a boat big enough to fit into the slip next to Terry Pagula's down there in Boca Raton.
No, speaking of you saying that, referencing a boat, I think he's living life like the end of Mud with Matthew McConaughey. Just sound like a cheap boat at the end of the Mississippi.
Listen, that's Cheektowaga dreaming, baby. That's Cheektowaga dreaming. But no, so I was very frustrated to learn that you can now buy, for those of you coming into town for the game this week, you can now buy your beer at any Wegmans, apparently, at 6 a.m. So you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations that I spent my life having to deal with. 1 p.m. game, Chris. We are the hottest ticket in the NFL this week. Is that bizarre?
Yeah, it is.
1 p.m. kickoff, Bills Saints is the most expensive ticket right now in the secondary market in the NFL.
I think we're actually playing Tulane. Now that you mention it.
I don't know if Spencer Rattler can make that team. But what I do know is that it tells you a couple things. One, just how awesome October in Buffalo really is. 2, how much of a beating people assume the Bills are about to give New Orleans.
Yeah.
Can you look up the line while I look?
I'll tell you right now, it's Bills minus 16.5.
Oh my God. That's a college line. That is a college football line. You don't get that in the NFL. Although I will say, taking Miami with the points was smart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you can get them at 12.5, baby, you were sitting pretty. No, it's crazy, and it's going to be a great weekend. If you're out there, make sure you stop by the tailgate, 4180 Abbott Road. If you're watching this, Chris on YouTube, Chris has the menu on screen now. And that is the
jambalaya, po' boy, shrimp sandwiches, the works.
I'm going to try my hand at beignets. I'm going to try my hand at legitimate beignets.
You texted or emailed me the list for the menu, and I was like, I'm not sure those letters are in the correct order to make a word.
I mean, I can't spell Reinhardt. It wouldn't shock me if I misspelled beignet.
Well, I had to ask Jessica. I was like, what is a beignet?
See, you're garbage too. You don't know anything either. Guys, it's going to be a great time. We're going to have a great spread. And it's all thanks to Palmer's. Palmer's Direct to You Market out on 900 Jefferson Road. It's a company that myself, the Rockpile Report, Q42, we're all proud to be partners with. Rochester's oldest family-owned business, and just steaks to seafood, prepared dishes to exotic meats, just the best of both national and regional products. You know, while you're there, like stock up on our Q42 products and their Grills Mafia apparel. Premium products, fair prices. That's your Palmer's promise. Stop in, check out what they got going on this week. And if you see my friend, a handsome older gentleman named Fred wandering the floor, or you see this pretty cool chick named Kaylee walking around, make sure you give him a high five and tell him the Rockpile Report says hello. Chris, I want to get into this quickly. Our Week 4 preview. New Orleans Saints at the Buffalo Bills. Your time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. The place, Ralph Wilson Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. Weather looks like it's going to be a prototypical fall day in Buffalo. Like, this is peak football weather. Low 70s, right? High 60s in the morning, probably by about 10 a.m., but it'll start off with a little chill. Sunny, minimal clouds. It's going to be awesome. A perfect day of football. Our wives will be attending.
Yes.
The annual wife game.
Yes. Come if you want to meet who said yes.
You want to meet I tell my wife all the time, whenever we get into fights about things, and she goes, "You're the dumbest person I've ever talked to." And I go, "And you married me. You knew I was a moron, and you said yes. So whose fault is all of this, really?" It works to some degree. Injuries of note. It's going to be interesting. Matt Milano, probably unlikely to play with his pec injury. Ed Oliver, probably also unlikely to play. And wide receiver Curtis Samuel. You know what his injury is, Chris?
His feelings?
Say his pride. He's been a healthy scratch all season because Elijah Moore kind of usurped the role that he used to hold. That can't feel good.
Well, I think what it is that Elijah Moore is what we wanted Curtis Samuel to be. And Curtis Samuel belongs where he is.
Curtis Samuel
and riding pine.
Curtis Samuel is the Isaiah McKenzie of Elijah Moore's. Like, yeah, that's how that works. Safety Jordan Hancock practicing in full again. Could see playing time given the Cam Lewis working back from a shoulder injury. Maybe he's not ready to go. It'll be really interesting to see how they parse that out. Shaq Thompson with his hamstring injury. There's some stuff there to watch, but I don't think anything of true significance for the offense. For the Saints, I mean, I'm going to true this up. Chris, give it a Goog right now. ESPN, throw it up here on the monitor in front of me. Just Saints injuries. Go to the ESPN because by my count, defensive end Chase Young has missed time with a calf injury. Guard Dylan Reddens with a toe injury. He missed a game. Wide receiver Trey Palmer dealing with a hamstring injury. One of the wide receivers who was supposed to help with the just kind of the makeup of their wide receiver room and getting them some more speed on the outside. This Talise Fuaga, his injury, back and knee injuries for an offensive tackle. It's, I don't know, not great. I don't know if he's going to play. They already lost Vernon Broughton to the injured reserve.
I forgot that Chase Young existed. I haven't heard about him in what feels like years.
Yeah. It's also funny that the Patriots traded an injured reserve player to the Saints. Like, that tells you they're in rebuild mode, right? When you trade for a guy who you're going to put on IR.
When you trade someone from the Saints to the Saints?
Jalen Polk? You do know that he was a Patriot, right?
Yeah, you just said traded from the Saints.
So when you trade a guy...
We'll let that one slide.
When you trade a guy who's on IR already, and you're the team acquiring him just so that you can put him on IR, doesn't that kind of reek of like, hey, we're already kind of thinking we got a punt on this year. We're already going to start stashing assets for next year?
Yeah.
Julian Blackmon ending up on IR, not ideal. When you talk about this matchup, the Bills and Saints don't have a ton of shared history. Despite the Bills being founded in 1959 and the AFL NFL merger happening in 1970. Do you know the Saints and Bills have only played 12 times?
Yeah, that checks out.
What's funny is that not only do we just have 5 wins all time against the Saints, but pretty much every single time these teams have gotten together throughout my adult life, something fucking terrible happens.
Oh, the streaker?
No, listen, I've got the list. Thanksgiving 2021. The Bills dominate the Saints on the scoreboard. Chris, you were watching this with me. Trey White blows out his knee. Like, didn't that take the air right out of the victory?
It did.
And then the following morning, hungover, we got Greg Thompson on the podcast and got him to explode.
Yeah.
Yell at me in a way that he doesn't yell at people. According to his family members, I'm the only person capable of eliciting that reaction from Greg Thompson. And the problem is that directly led to the 13-second game where Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson were the only options we had available at cornerback. And you know how that went. Back in 2013, okay? 2013, Drew Brees throws 5 touchdowns to Thad Lewis's 1. He throws 1 touchdown to Stevie Johnson, who then gets hurt. The Bills get dominated. And the entire time, my buddy is fighting with an ex-girlfriend of his in somebody else's house inside the village of Batavia. My friend is dog sitting. I came over to drink beers with him. His girlfriend shows up. They just start fighting because she hates my guts and I don't like her. But Chris, the funny part about this, she threatened to in the middle of this fight that they were having, she threatened to take away his laundry room access at her apartment. And I drunkenly cackled from the couch. Just, what are you talking about? I'm like, and Chris, she never liked me. Is it shocking to think about why? That whole afternoon was just a complete debacle.
Yes. I have on screen right now, you're looking at it, the 12-game history of Bills Saints. We have not beaten the Saints in Buffalo since October 1983.
I know.
And not for nothing, this is like you ever hear like a trivia question and you're like, as a sports guy, you're just like, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. The last time the Saints took a quarterback in the first round.
Why are you just waving scissors around?
Because I can. Archie Manning was the last quarterback the Saints took in the first round.
The 2001 home opener, Rob Johnson's last season in a Bills uniform, and it set the tone for what that season was going to be because he got outplayed by Aaron Brooks and just led the offense to 2 field goals. They lost by 18 fucking points. And then, Chris, as you alluded to, 2017, the Saints beat the Bills so friggin' bad that Sean McDermott let the intrusive thoughts win. The following week, he let that idiot Rick Dennison talk him into benching Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman when they went out west to play the San Diego Chargers. And we all know how that went. It was maybe one of the most embarrassing quarterback decisions in franchise history. And this is a team, Chris, that has made some really poor ones. And then that same day, that super fit guy just went streaking on the field and somehow amassed more rushing yards than our entire offense, which just adds insult to injury on a national scale. I've got a hot take. If you go streaking and you have 6-pack abs, and I see you running around naked in public, jail time. And no, I don't want to hear about misdemeanors. I don't want to hear about trespassing. I want jail time. And I'm not talking about that cushy, medium, minimum security nonsense they're doing out there in Collins or like what they're doing out there in Albion, New York. I want to see this guy breaking rocks like Bernie Mac in the movie Life. That's what I want. Okay? Not even because of the public indecency, but because it's just braggadocious to be like, hey, not only is that it gets arrogance on a level that even guys like me who have no shame are like, I'm unwilling to reach for that. To be like, hey guys, your day's going poorly. Check it out. 6-pack. six-pack, and I'm cut all the way down. And you're like, oh, God, stop it. No, come on. And then my wife is sitting there next to me, and she's seeing that. And then the next time I take my shirt off at the pool, she's like, no streaker. You are no streaker. And it's infuriating. So go flex on the side of the highway while you pick up trash in an orange jumpsuit, jackass. If you go streaking, you muscular idiots, I feel like there should be a stronger penalty for them. Now, if a chubby guy goes streaking, I feel like that's just good TV. I feel like watching the act of that is comical enough. Like the Chris Farley thing.
Oh, yeah.
Something that should be horrific just automatically becomes funny, right?
Yes.
So now I sit here knowing that we haven't beaten the Saints at home since when, Chris?
1983. And I'll tell you a nugget about that off camera.
And I'm just wondering what fresh horrors await the Buffalo Bills this time as we prepare to take on the Saints that are in a crazy place and already hold single-digit playoff odds thanks to their 0-3 record. And I don't know. What they are and what they're going to bring to this game is incredibly difficult to gauge. From the Saints Happy Hour podcast. And I got to tell you guys, it's one of my favorite relationships we've made doing this podcast. Over the years, he made a whiskey bet with me once and actually paid up on it. It was shocking. Andrew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. It's great to be back. I feel like there's like two podcasts out there, you guys and a Vikings one, that I actually look forward to playing your teams just so I could come on your show and do this. And you know, we do banter on Twitter over the years, and it's always a pleasure. So I'm glad that we're playing you guys again, just so that we get to do this. I am not looking forward to Sunday. I can tell you that.
16 and a half points is a lot.
You're catching me on a Tuesday. I'm in a pretty good mood as the week progresses. Yeah, I mean, if you've watched the Saints season at all, it tends to get worse and worse. So I can only imagine how this one's going to go. But yeah, it's great to see you. It's great to be back, and looking forward to getting into this.
And for those of you who don't know, the award-winning Saints Happy Hour podcast,
right.
The award-winning guys, go check it out. Andrew, where can they find it?
Yeah, thanks. It's you can visit our website, saintshappyhour.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on all that stuff.
They're amazing. I love them, and I want to get into this because when I think about the Saints, I don't know if there's a team in the NFL that got thrown a bigger curveball in terms of what we have at the most important position in sports than the New Orleans Saints. And it's hard to tell who's really to blame for it in the position that you guys are currently in. And every detailed report that I've read on the topic says that despite all the setbacks and the injuries, Derek Carr, who didn't show up for OTAs and he didn't show up for team workouts, still had this idea that he was going to be the Saints 2025 quarterback. They knew this. They knew about the shoulder injury. They weren't sure of the severity, but they were like, hey, we're going to work through this together. They found out about the labrum degeneration, and they said, hey, we're willing to give this a shot. And then both parties took a wait-and-see approach during the free agency cycle. Early on, so, guys start getting signed. Cap starts getting spent. Trades start getting made. And all of a sudden, this ramps up to where it blows up in everybody's face come May 10th when he unceremoniously just retires from the NFL. And it leaves the Saints in this crazy place where the draft's already happened. Right. Free agency's already happened. Money's been spent. Picks have been spent. And you're kind of stuck with a depth chart at quarterback. I mean, Tyler Show, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener that's your training camp quarterback chart. It's one of the NFL's most inexperienced entering the season. How did that what were you thinking as a fan watching that play out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we're still scratching our head a little bit. And we kind of moved on, right? Like after a while, we stopped asking questions and it was what it was. So you move on with the guys that are there. But I remember when it was going down, everyone was kind of like, this doesn't add up, and there's something they're not telling us, right? And part of it's like, why would Derek Carr retire and walk away from $20 million? And then you've seen a couple subsequent podcasts, interviews, whatever, where Derek Carr says, yeah, $20 million, it was hard to walk away from, but I decided to do the right thing. Shut up. No, that's not true. There's no way that's true.
That's a lie.
Like, stop it. There's no way you just walk from 20 million because that's the right thing to do. No one does that.
Guys,
Please, come on.
don't worry. I'm really altruistic, and I just really don't believe in dogging it for $20 million. For $20 million, I'm willing to do some filthy things that I can't talk about on air. $20 million?
Absolutely.
Oh.
But no, so I think Carr was in a situation where he had gotten injured on the last play, or a couple games left in the season. He gets injured. He breaks his arm. He had a shoulder thing too. He wasn't throwing the football because of the break, and he was waiting for that to heal. And by the time it healed and he started throwing again, there was a shoulder issue, and it wasn't resolving. My hunch is that the Saints went ahead and paid him his bonus in good faith under the assumption that the shoulder was fine. And by the time he realized the shoulder was not fine and he might have to go on IR, I think there was kind of like this look. And the Saints cut him a check for $10 million right before he retired. And so my hunch, and this is just conspiracy theory, whatever, but my hunch is that the Saints said, look, we can take you to court over this. This can get really ugly. Or how about we cut you a check for $10 million and you retire and we go our separate ways. And if you still want to play football in a year, unretire and we'll trade you. But we need the cap space, and we think we have a case that you handled this inappropriately. And so at the end of the day, he retired, and that's the best theory I can come up with. But something is rotten in the state of Denmark, as they say. And I just felt like Carr was ready to move on with the Saints. He didn't want to play for them anymore. The Saints kind of held a gun to his head by paying for that bonus, because at that point they really couldn't trade him, right? Because of just the cap ramifications. And I think he was bummed because I think he wanted to leave. Would he have played for someone else if he could have this coming year? That's the thing we'll never know. I'm not sure. Now, I do think the injury was serious. Could he have played on a degenerative arm and been less effective? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know.
Sure.
But the whole situation was weird. I think a lot of Saints fans hate Derek Carr. And so they were very eager to move on. And what I warned a lot of listeners at the time is the grass is not always greener. And I think they were all like, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to have Rattler. We're going to have Tyler Shuck. We're going to have Jake Haener. And we're going to go 0-17. And we're going to have the first pick in the draft. And we're going to take Arch Manning. And everything's going to be great. That's how Saints fans process this. Meanwhile, we're 0-3. The season is absolutely miserable. And 3 games in, this is what they wanted. But now they're like, wait a minute.
Everyone goes, hey, it'll be really cool to get a top pick in the draft. And they forget how much it sucks having to get the top pick in the draft.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So the quarterback...
You actually have to suffer through that season.
Yeah.
You don't get to fast forward like Madden.
You still have to crawl like Andy Dufresne down that tunnel before you get your freedom. So Tyler Shugg, rookie taken in the second round, touted as a solid backup option that could grow over time into a decent NFL starter. He doesn't... that whole training camp thing was tough. And it was tough coming into the season and watching this process. Spencer Rattler, second-year NFL player with 9 starts and 0 wins to his name. In 2024, he had just 4 passing touchdowns, which is the same number of games with a 55% or worse completion percentage that he had. And he ate 22 sacks in 7 games. I think it's easy to point at Spencer Rattler. And you look at where he is now. 4 touchdowns, no picks, 4 sacks. Okay. He's starting. He's doing okay. But it's this idea that I don't know if Spencer Rattler's the problem so much as Spencer Rattler's probably a fairly mediocre NFL quarterback. But that's okay, because being somewhere in the 20th to 20th to 15th best NFL quarterback, you're still in the upper echelon of all athletes playing one of the hardest sports in the entire world. The problem is when you have nothing around you that works, it becomes very hard to get to that point. And so even if you are decent at what you do, it's hard. I say this as a Bills fan who has watched quarterback after quarterback after quarterback with a terrible roster around them that was either because of poor cap management from years prior or bad draft picks that never hit. I've watched things fall apart. And so this is the quarterback room that first-time head coach Kellen Moore gets handed. And I'm positive this isn't the situation he thought he was going to be walking into when he took the job. And this all becomes very difficult to parse. Now, what do you think of the job Kellen Moore's done as a head coach?
Well, first of all, I think your description of Spencer Rattler is very generous.
Okay.
And I'll put it to you this way. If I could trade him for peak Tulane legend JP Lossman, if I could do that trade straight up, I would make that trade. Okay? I would rather have JP as our starter, and I know you remember him.
Oh my God, do I remember him? He was the source of and cause of a lot of my problems for a couple of years.
Yeah. Andrew doesn't even know this. I mentioned earlier, I thought we were playing Tulane. That's how bad the Saints
we were playing
are.
Tulane University.
Maybe he is JP Lossman at Tulane, yeah. But I think here's the deal. We knew on some level as fans that this roster wasn't good. But by the way, if I'm you guys, you mentioned this 0-9. If this is a thing that happens to me a lot as a Saints fan, certainly happened a lot when Drew Brees was quarterback. Whenever we would play these teams where the quarterback was 0-9, am I allowed to curse on the show?
Of course.
Okay. I was always like, oh shit. Like, it is the Saintsiest thing ever.
Yep.
When a quarterback comes in and he's 0-9, he's winning in the Superdome against Drew Brees. Like, it was like clockwork. The worse the team was, the less seriously we took them, and that was a loss. And if I'm you guys, now you're not the Saints, so you'll probably win and be just fine, and you'll go to 0-10. But if the roles were reversed, I'm telling you, I'd be shitting my pants. But that being said, no, I think, look, the hope was that we knew we were going to have a weak roster. We knew as fans that the players, the good ones are aging, the young ones are very unproven. And so from a roster standpoint, we're probably going to go into most games being outmatched. The hope was that we had this mastermind X's and O's offensive coordinator / coach that just came from the Eagles, that just won a Super Bowl, and was going to be able to design an offense and be brilliant and smart and be a genius and innovate in a way that could maybe level us up and give us a game plan that would help us compete. And so far, I think we're realizing that not only is there a gap with the players, there's a gap with the coach. Yeah. And so we're in the uncomfortable reality where it's not just the players that need to improve and that have a long way to go. It's the coaching staff too.
And this is where coming up against a Sean McDermott run team that is aggressively unforgiving to under tenured quarterbacks. This is a team that has made its bones on, if you don't have experience in the league, whether you're a rookie or whether you're a first-time starter who's spent time kind of on the bench getting spot starts, they eat these teams alive when they play them. And mostly it's because the pre-snap, post-snap safety motion and the way that they mix their secondary is just visually it's too much for unexperienced signal callers, and those guys get flustered by the second, third, fourth quarter, and they make a lot of mistakes. And that's what they capitalize on. And we tend to run away with those games, which is where I think a lot of this, like the line being 16, is, Bills minus 16 and change, that didn't come from nowhere. It's Sean McDermott's thing of, I can outcoach this type of team. Now, when you match him up against the Chiefs, when they're in their prime and he wets his pants, but here, I feel like the Saints are in trouble offensively. The one thing that I thought coming into this matchup, when I was doing some of my prep work prior to this Sunday, I was like, oh, well, at least their defense seems like it's holding its own. It's kind of keeping things interesting. And then, woof. Just, guys, for those of you watching at home, I want to lay this out here into some, like, if I can add context to what's happened. You talk about the salary cap not being real. And people will say, oh, the salary cap's not real. Look at what the Eagles are doing right now. And look what the Saints did for God knows how long. Mickey Loomis, he figured it out. Ask any Saints fan if the salary cap isn't real and look at the roster right now. Because I'll tell you what's happened. The cupboard is bare and they don't have money to spend to restock it. And if you don't believe me, just look at the first 3 quarters of their game against the Seahawks. The Saints almost set the franchise record for the largest first half deficit that they've ever had in a football game. And they were saved by a field goal. Absorb that for a second. And then consider that between the date that they were incepted in 1967 until the year 2000, which is a span of 32 years, the Saints finished last or second to last in their division 25 times. And over that span of being awful, they never got outscored to that margin in the first half of a football game as they almost did on Sunday. Like, Andrew, is that painful to hear when it's framed like that?
I'm going to need you to hand the bourbon across the screen to me. I don't know if you can do that. I'm just going to go straight from the bottle, if that's okay. Look, no spread is high enough where I would bet. I'll put it to you this way. I picked the Saints. I picked Seattle last week in my Survivor League. I'm picking the Bills this week in my Survivor League. That's how confident I am in my own team. Let me just walk you through the sequence in the first quarter because it's barely believable. Okay, this is on Sunday against, and I can't imagine. I actually don't think it'll be as bad against the Bills, only because I don't think it's possible to repeat something this bad. But this is no joke. I'm guessing you didn't watch the game. I'm guessing your listeners didn't. So This is no joke how it plays out. The Saints get the ball first. They get a pretty good kick return. They get to about the 50. We're kind of moving the ball a little bit, right? It's going well. 3rd and 2. You've got your tight end open in the flat for a first down. Airmailed by Rattler. Tough decision now, okay? 4th and 2. Do you go for it? Do you punt? They decide to go for it. They do a little Camara route. He gets behind the linebacker. He is wide open. Wide-ass open. It's 20, 30 yards downfield. Airmailed again. So Rattler misses 2 throws there, and we were kind of cooking. We were in business. Like, maybe could have gotten a score, at least a field goal, although kicker misses half his kick, so maybe not. But it looked like we were at least going to start the game okay. Seattle gets the ball. They march down. We actually stop them. I say we like I play on the team. The Saints stop them. So it's 4th down. But wait, there's a penalty now because after the play, we personal fouled them. So we give them a free first down after we had gotten that stop, so they get a touchdown. Great, okay? So it's 7-0. We go 3 and out, punt, return for a touchdown, 95 yards. It's now 14-0. We get stopped 3 and out. Now, this 3 and out is interesting. False start, 1st and 15. I think we get 3 yards on 2nd and 12, holding. 2nd and 22. False start. So 3 out of 4 plays, penalties. By the time they get to this is great. By the time they get to 3rd down, it's like a 6-yard gain, holding, they decline. So we're now at the point where we're still getting penalized, but they don't even bother taking it. They're like, yeah, it's fine. You can take the yards. You don't even need the penalty anymore. So then we punt again, right? That punt is blocked, touchdown. So it's now 21-0 in the span. There's still like 5 minutes left in the first quarter. And it's already like you just turn it off. Like in my lifetime, I don't know that I have ever seen a game start like this, where it's just boom, boom, boom. And I think they scored Seattle on the first 6 possessions that they had. It kind of felt a little, I don't know if you've ever played that softball game. I don't know if you play softball, but like where the other team is up like 17-1 after the 2nd inning, and they just decide to start going station to station.
Yeah.
Stop humiliating you. I felt like the whole second half was Seattle going station to station. They put in Drew Lock. They're running the football. They're just trying to bleed the clock for us, thankfully. And I felt like they took mercy on the Saints. So anyway, that's just like a quick snapshot of where we are in our lifespan as Saints fans. And now we get to go to Buffalo and play one of the best teams in the NFL. It's great.
God. I mean, when you say it like that, I almost feel bad because here I have numbers and statistics and players. Like I want to talk about it like I've got statistics on Isaac Yadium. And I go, oh, he's a journeyman cornerback who shouldn't be starting.
Yes.
He 8 years, 7 different teams, 80% completion rate against. Like, he shouldn't be out there. But then Kool-Aid McKinstry, Roll Tide. Unfortunately, like, I'm an Alabama fan, and I see him playing NFL football, and I'm almost like ashamed. Like, I whispered, I go, Roll Tide. Whenever I do a mention, because I don't want to
say it too loud. Yeah.
I don't want to claim him, but I have to.
Right.
And then, like, Alante Taylor, struggle. Like, they're all struggling. It's just struggle. Everywhere you look, Demario Davis, he's doing a great job in run support, but he's invisible in pass coverage. Brian Brisset, a guy who some Bills fans wanted over Dalton Kincaid, the guy that we traded up to get in the first round in the same draft class. Brisset's had an up and down year. He's been less than impactful. And yet Kincaid is at a hot start to the year, and everyone's going, holy shit, it's happening. Finally. Like, they're finally playing like he's a first-round draft pick. It's crazy. Like, you guys have great players. Like, Carl Granderson is a guy. Like, I came into this podcast with the idea of, I'm like, I want to highlight some guys no one knows about. Like, Carl Granderson does not ever get his due. And it's probably because he's played on a lot of bad New Orleans teams, for lack of a better explanation.
Yep.
But look at 7 tackles, two tackles for loss and 3 sacks against San Francisco. He was just a monster on that line. He'll never, but you don't hear about him on ESPN. What is it about, like, who are some of the unsung heroes that Bills fans should probably be aware of at least?
Yeah, I think Granderson's a bit up and down, but when he's on, he can flash. He can make a big play. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's amazing he's still able to make plays, because I feel like you can kind of game plan for him and just say, look, let's just block him and let the other dudes just kind of do their thing and see what happens. But
yeah.
So I'm actually surprised when Granderson makes a play, because I feel like he's good, but he's not elite. And so if you throw 2 guys at him, he's not going to do anything, right? But yeah, no, Granderson's definitely one of our best on defense. Pete Werner, he's been kind of disappointing, I would say, so far in coverage this year. But he's a linebacker that'll play his ass off and run sideline to sideline. So Pete Werner's a linebacker, he's a try-hard, and he's a guy that, pretty smart player. So there's a couple guys defensively. Cam Jordan, he obviously is very old and washed, and Demario Davis is too, but they'll occasionally remind you that they were great NFL players. And make no mistake, Demario and Davis and Cam Jordan, when they were at their best, I put them up against most guys in the league.
Cam Jordan was one of my favorite NFL players ever. He will still, like, I have a hierarchy. It's like, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, but I put Cam Jordan in that category because he was just consistent, just a threat. Every game, he was going to go out there and manhandle your tackles, game after game after game. Yeah. Even if the team was down points, didn't matter. He was still out there just whooping ass, and I love that.
I feel like the big thing about Cam Jordan that gets underappreciated is, there's a lot of guys in the history of the NFL that were sack masters. Dating back to Pat Swilling with the Saints and Javon Curse and, kind of like these speed rushers where every year you could count on 17 and a half, 15 and a half sacks from these guys. But, the book was kind of out on them that, like, on 1st and 10 and 2nd and 2, you could run right at them.
Yep.
And you could expose kind of their weaknesses in the run game. And to me, Cam has always been a complete player. Yeah. Not too dissimilar from Bruce Smith. And I remember that about Bruce, that he was a guy that every down he was effective. It didn't matter. Every situation, every down, 1st and 10, 2nd and 2, 3rd and 8, like Anytime he's on the field, it's a problem. It doesn't matter down or distance. And I feel like that describes Cam Jordan really well.
I've loved Cam Jordan, and it's funny because I'm watching the life cycle of this as we kind of wrap this. I feel like the line is obviously indicative of what Vegas thinks of things. And we usually say it takes the Vegas a couple weeks to get a good feeling for teams. And I feel like they're starting to figure out, they're like, okay, Buffalo's a team that can throw one pass over 11 yards in a football game and score 31 points. Against a team like the Saints, we have no idea how bad this can get, so we're going to set the line at 16.5. It's a problem, but it's also indicative that you guys are kind of where the Bills were when we were in our drought years. You're looking for another answer at quarterback. And once you have it, you build around it and you figure the rest out. You guys have a really intense fan base. And I feel like it'll be there when you find this thing. But for a while now, you're going to have to kind of walk through the woods and try to figure out where it comes from. Maybe Spencer Rattler turns into the answer. Probably not. Maybe Tyler Shugg is the thing. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And if you guys end up with the number 1 pick in the draft, maybe that's the answer too. And as soon as that comes back, I'm sure you remember what it was like when Drew Brees just showed up there and everything changed. And all of a sudden, like, Chris, the Bills were terrible for how long? And then we got Josh Allen. And in that first year, you recognized, even though we were bad the first year, it was different.
Still waiting for you to throw yourself backwards down the nearest flight of stairs. 2 beers in hand.
2 beers in hand because we drafted Josh Allen, the quarterback who I was a Josh Rosen guy. You don't know where your quarterback's going to come from, which is why these coaches and these franchises go through this search and this process of trying everything and everyone, because they're all hoping they can be frugal and still get the guy.
Right.
The Bills lucked into Josh Allen with the number 8 pick in that draft. They didn't need the number 1 pick, or they couldn't get to number 3. You know, the Jets got first crack, the Browns got first crack, and we ended up with the guy who's out of that class. It's Lamar Jackson at the back end of the entire draft,
right?
And Josh, who have won MVPs. So there's opportunities for the Saints. Unfortunately, it feels like this year is very much a learning year. Yeah. And very much just to quote the movie Full Metal Jacket, it's a big old shit sandwich, and we're all going to take a bite. And that's just...
Well, it's funny that you're an Alabama fan, because you probably experienced this from a couple different angles, being an Alabama fan. But for me, look, I've been a Saints fan my whole life, and I started in the Jim Moore era, and towards the end there, they went 3-13. We pivoted to Jim Haslett, and in 2000, the Saints won their first ever playoff game. And then there was the Katrina year; they went 3-13. I survived 3 years of Ditka. So I've been through some shit with the Saints, and I got to be honest, I never really felt like winning a Super Bowl was in the cards. I didn't think I would see that in my lifetime, and when that happened in 2009, obviously it was incredible. But you know, I kind of feel like I can get through anything as a fan. Like, this is a lifestyle. It's a lifetime commitment. So, like, whatever happens, and I'm going to be here on Sundays to celebrate, and I'll always have that Super Bowl victory. And you know this. I mean, a lot of teams like can't say that.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that's why you can be, and I lump Alabama in this, but, you know, I think your main rival in the NFL is the Patriots, and I think those fans are miserable now, and every year they're like, but the Patriots fans, like, they don't really live in reality, because they had this 2-decade period where they were basically competing for Super Bowls every single year, and they got spoiled, and they got used to it, and they just assume that the Patriots are just going to be good forever. But eventually that bill comes due, and it's not reality. And what I've learned over my years as a Saints fan, which I think is much more lucid and real, is just that you better appreciate the seasons that are really good, because the really bad ones are just around the corner. Yep. And I think you as Bills fans, even though you've had a tremendous run with Josh Allen, I know that you guys appreciate that big time. And that's why I'm going to tell you right now on this show, like, I always root for the Bills. I want you guys to experience that. I want you to get that Super Bowl because I know what it meant to me in 2009, and I know that it would mean the same thing to you guys. And when some of these other teams win, man, it's just they're spoiled. It's not the same. They don't get it.
No, I got. Damn it, Andrew. I love you. I love what you guys have going on over there at Saints Happy Hour. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you guys on social media and where they can follow your show?
Yeah, we're on Twitter. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. So, yeah, just search for Saints Happy Hour. You can visit our website at saintshappyhour.com. We have a Discord channel, so if you sign up and you become a patron, you can jump in our Discord. And the really fun thing that we do is hang out with our listeners and patrons on game day, and they love to get in there and chat about how the Saints are doing. But yeah, it's an interesting year to podcast for sure. This is as bad as they've been since we've been doing the show like for 15 years now. But we kind of started like around. I mean, we didn't realize how the Peyton era was going to go when we started, obviously, but we've had an incredible run during pretty much the entire existence of our show. So this is the worst they've been since we started the show. So it's interesting to kind of navigate.
Andrew Juge, Saints Happy Hour. Always a good time. We haven't talked to him in like 5 years. Always good to talk to Andrew Juge. There we go.
Oh, my God. Oh, you dog.
Yeah, don't even get into it.
Nope, we're not gonna. So with that, guys, I want to get into this week's Keys to Victory, brought to you by Triple Bogey.
Wow, that's a lot of keys.
Bigger the keychain, more powerful the man.
That's a clean beer. God. So, 3-pack of keys. First of all, the Buffalo Bills have to attack the seams of this defense. Now, a lot of people were pissed about the way that the Bills missed on the opening play of the Miami game what looked to be a wide open Dalton Kincaid. Just streaking up the field, up the seam and out, kind of a. As we discussed in the recap, the Bills did as I thought they should. They played it safe. They played small ball. They played to the outside. They played a lot of shallow routes and really leaned into the short area passing attack. And as such, that wasn't even his first or second possible read on the play. Too bad, so sad. If you don't like it, go scream into Twitter, people. But in this game, they have to flip the script on that dynamic. Like, despite the fact that Christian McCaffrey, right, just recently posted his best receiving game in, I want to say, recent history against the Saints defense. This week, I think that dynamic can and should change, and I think they should be looking to push the ball down the field early in the game against this Saints defense. Because you go back to, I go back to that 49ers game. With no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk, no Mac Jones went 7 for 9 for over 100 yards and a touchdown with 0 interceptions on throws to the seams, specifically the left, which is where Kincaid would line up if you're in 12 or 11 personnel sets. Some of that has to do with the fact that the safeties are, from what I can tell, often tasked with helping the boundary corners. Like, you remember me when we were talking to Andrew mentioning that they were suspect and that Isaac Gideon, he's not great, right?
Yep.
Well, how about this? Kool-Aid McKinstry, among cornerbacks with at least 50% of all possible snaps taken at the cornerback position, so bona fide starters, he's 13th worst in terms of passer rating allowed when targeted. And if you bumped it up to 80%, just to underscore, like, hey, this isn't, hey, because it's only a couple games. So sometimes guys go out half a game, they get nicked up, they come out. Of legitimate starting cornerbacks in the NFL, Kool-Aid McKinstry is the 3rd worst cornerback in the NFL in terms of passer rating allowed when targeted. And Pete Werner is really having a bad start to this season, just a year after signing a contract extension, which doesn't help them. He's been pretty good against the run as like a Sam linebacker, but he's allowed a ton of receptions and a lot of yak. He got torched by Juwan Jennings in that 49ers game, for a 42-yard touchdown because they let him cover the seam and he just cut his zone short and then couldn't elevate to get the ball down. And it was just an easy dump off for Mac Jones right over the top of his head. And then you look at what happened to them against the Seahawks. Chris, they got dismantled. Their defense had no answer and their offense couldn't punch back. And at one point, I think it was 44-6.
Checks out.
Like, that's crazy. Again, these are college football scores. A college football line, college football scoreboard in almost every Saints game. So unlike last week, where, given the state of offense and the lack of quick strike ability that we had versus what Chris, whether you want to admit it or not, we can sit here and talk about how Miami is, butt cheeks, but the reality is if you let Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle get behind you, they can very quickly find their way to the end zone. So you have to play a safer version of football when you play that football team. And it's why we continue to beat them. Okay? Now that you're fighting a guy with one hand tied behind his back, you should absolutely take some shots into the middle of the field. Coleman, Palmer, Kincaid. I'm thinking about our big physical guys up the seam or on post routes against these guys. Really test the center of the field. Challenge their linebackers. Because I bet you if you can get up early on them, you can make this thing lopsided in a hurry. Even if you want to test the zone with Shakir. Like, remember the Rams game when Shakir just got behind their zone and then the safeties couldn't converge fast enough and he just split them for a touchdown. This strikes me as the type of team you can kind of flex some of that on. And so if you do enough of it early, you can probably get away with a lot more later and really grind the game out. And that leads me to my second key of the game, which is use your offense to just control the pace of play. We watched the Seahawks do this to the Saints last week, where they essentially just said, listen, we're going to score on our first. Chris, do me a favor. Click. You're on Pro Football Reference. Do me a favor. Pull up the 2025 New Orleans Saints. Okay. 2025. And then I want you to go to the box score there. Here we go. Box score. And then scroll down. And here we go. Scroll up. Okay. Here's how the game started. A 12-yard touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba on the opening drive for the Seahawks. And then the Seahawks scored a 95-yard punt return touchdown. That's gravy.
Well, based on math and time, look at the time.
Yep.
You would assume that
they went
it was
three and out. So the Saints went 3 and out, gave it right back. They punted on the ensuing punt, 95-yard touchdown return. Look at the time that came off the clock. It's from 7:31, so no time would have run, or minimal time. At 4:22, Kenneth Walker scores a 3-yard rushing touchdown.
You could almost assume, again, 3 and out.
Yeah. Finally, in the second quarter, Blake Grupp kicks a field goal. And it's like goes on to be one like, barely gets them out of what was the worst, for as bad as that team has been historically, one of the worst first quarters in, we talked about it earlier. I'm not going to rehash it. And then Torrey Horton, 14-yard pass. Now it's 28-3. So now if you're the Saints, what are you doing? Look at the timestamps on when they had the ball. Now the Seahawks. And
every time 38 points in one half in Seattle. And you should have just given up.
And look at how quickly they were getting the ball back. The idea is if you can make this team one-dimensional and you can do it quickly, force Spencer Rattler to try to win this football game, guys, I think you have this firmly in the bag. This is a guy who, in his NFL career,
it's going to be his 10th start.
His 10th start. Okay, go here's a fun one, Chris. Go to game logs. Up there at the top. Up. Nope. Down. It's right there next to overview. Come on. Hover over it. Nope. Hover over that. And now go advanced career. Yeah, here we go. Scroll down. No, stay right there. Go up, right there. There's our stats. So, in terms of accuracy, his bad throw percentage double digits every game of his career, except for the last one. Except for the one where they lost 44-13. He's not a good passer. I don't care what anybody says. And then you start looking at the air yards, and you look at his passing, and you look at his first down percentage, and these are all well below league average. Spencer Rattler, when people are like, oh, they might have something in them. Yeah, they have a loser. They have a polished turd that they can trot out there for a single season that's going to either give Tyler Show the runway he needs to develop into an NFL passer, or that's going to guarantee them a top pick in the draft and they can take a quarterback next year. They may quietly have the inside track on Arch Manning, and wouldn't that be just delicious?
Well, he's not coming out. You can't come out after this start in college. I'm sorry. You're not going to go number one just based on your name. Arch hasn't put up the numbers. I will Seagrams that Arch Manning will start for Texas next August or September.
The Buffalo Bills need to not only attack the seams, but have a very aggressive mindset on offense. Because if you can put a little scoreboard pressure on this team, they will absolutely fall apart. There's nothing about their makeup that tells you they have the ability to hang in a football game with another competitive team, truly competitive team. And in that way, I think we can just body blow these guys to death for an entire... Chris, imagine that game. We score 24 in the first half. It's a laugher at halftime. Our wives will probably leave sometime in the middle of the third, and we can just have an easy peasy, just
What, did I run back to your house? Run it back, double or nothing?
If you did, nothing would make me happier. Nothing would make me happier than us getting to enjoy that. In fact, I'll tell Larissa to have your wife wait at the house. I want to be like, honey, I want you to see this. See what your husband looks like when he comes just sloughing up the driveway.
If I do that again, it's going to be the Chief game.
Are you going to FaceTime Kyle Washington again?
Yes, I will. I would have called my wife for like encouragement, but she would have been like, you woke me up for this? If I call Kyle Washington's going to go, man, I'll crack a beer and I'll talk to you on your last leg home by far.
It's amazing. The third key of the game is going to be pressure plan that isn't just Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa right now in total through 3 games is one of the NFL's highest rated pass rushers. It's not for lack of opportunity. I mean, the guy's out there. He's a phenomenal player when he's healthy, and he's been showing that off for weeks. But we're now talking about him playing 68.6%, 55.3%, and 86.9% of our defensive snaps. All this talk about having a plan for Joey Bosa went right out the window. And unfortunately, that's not the way we're going to get to January and be winners. Okay? Some of that is the loss of Ed Oliver. Some of it's losing Matt Milano as an interior blitzer. And some of it's Greg Rousseau getting, no pun intended, a little slow off the blocks here in 2025. AJ Epinesa and Greg Rousseau combined have the equivalent of Bosa's stat line throughout the start of the year. And that's not sustainable. Greg Rousseau inevitably has to start. And I know that it's not as bad as some fans think. Greg Rousseau is still doing a very good job setting the edge against the run. He still is getting pressure. He's just not getting anywhere near the quarterback. And Joey Bosa is doing what Joey Bosa has done when he's healthy, which is look like a really good pass rushing talent in the NFL. And considering all the discord in the back end of our defense, you can't afford to consistently commit linebackers to augment the pass rush anymore. So in this game against another beat up and young offensive line, you'd like to think that we could exploit just a little bit, right? Like, to be able to do this, we're going to need some schematic changes. I think Deion Walker should be lining up at more right guard than left guard assignments. He flashes now and again, and that's great considering the lack of productivity by TJ Sanders. Chris, do you forget sometimes that TJ Sanders is even on the roster?
Yes, I do.
It feels like a real Christian Benford, Kyer Elam light situation with Walker and Sanders. Some of his most impactful and visible plays have come when he's lined up off the right guard side of the line compared to the left guard. These are small, nuanced things that I think matter. His size, specifically his height, make him such a problem. And that's why I think they're keeping him off left guard. Because, Chris, you're a right-handed quarterback. You're going to take the snap. You're going to drop back. You're going to go to throw. If you have to, like, if you have a guy who's tall enough and he can stand up and he can block out one of these throwing lanes just by being huge, it's an advantage to you because that's already a hard throw for a quarterback to make, which in theory you'd hope would funnel more passes to one side of the field. I think that you need to start searching for options. Maybe we need to start seeing more packages where they rotate A.J. Epinesa and Greg Rousseau inside and put them on guards. Let Deion Walker play off tackle. They need to find something, right? I know that this is a problem. And given how average the offensive tackles are, it's possible we see some of this Deion Walker gamesmanship where they move him around. Greg Rousseau just has to go out there and earn his fucking paycheck. You need to ensure that if he's not generating pressure, you're giving him opportunities. Like if he can't naturally go head to head on a tackle and beat him, okay, that's fine. Is he setting the edge versus the run? Okay. Then on pass rush downs, why don't you rotate him around? Why aren't you playing A.J. Epinesa on the edge, who also is no slouch against the run, on third down, and putting Greg Rousseau inside? Am I the only one who's disappointed with Bobby Babich through 3 weeks?
Most likely. I would ask you in this instance, what are the rules and regulations to call up your entire defensive practice squad and start them in this game so you don't have to overuse a Joey Bosa?
I don't know, but I feel like they have to find some answer because that can't be. Like I said, if you take care of business early and you don't have to worry about, oh my God, we have to keep rushing the passer, you can probably get away with maybe a 40% snap share, 35% snap share of Joey Bosa. If you're putting the scoreboard pressure on, and then also if you're being creative as a defensive coordinator. I don't know if we have that in us right now. Again, Bobby Babich said that the 87% mark was too high and that they got to get that sorted out. But who's they? When you're the guy who's in charge of that piece of the operation, something my father always used to say to me.
McDermott is they.
Well, here's the thing. My father used to have this saying. I'd come to him and I'd be like, oh, well, we did this. And he'd look at me and go, or we made this decision. He goes, who we? Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket? Like, who's this we you're talking about? It's you. I feel like Bobby Babich has to answer for this. You, Bobby Babich, not we, you have to come up with some creativity. You need to find ways to put these guys. If they can't naturally win on their own talent alone, then you need to put Greg Rousseau in position to generate positive statistics for himself. You need to find ways to pair him up with other players, rotate them around in the line, put him on right tackle. Okay, move him to right tackle and put A.J. Epinesa off the left tackle and give Greg Rousseau maybe more of a runway towards productivity on passing downs when you don't want to expose Joey Bosa. I feel like we're not doing enough. And then I watched like the Lions game last night. Or I watched the Broncos and I go, damn it. Why are you all able to do it? Now, mind you, they have AJ they have Aiden Hutchinson. They've got a bunch of guys. Who do they got? They got that. Oh, what was that kid's name?
Jack Campbell.
No, he's a linebacker. They've got another defensive lineman.
Yeah, Jack Campbell.
He's like a journeyman. He's a linebacker, stand up linebacker, middle linebacker.
Jack Sawyer. That's who I'm thinking of.
No.
I got it. Alex Anzalone. Is he still trucking?
He is kind of a Sam linebacker / he was in on some pressures, so you're not completely wrong. I give you credit for even knowing those names. But it's just the idea that I'm watching these games and I'm watching coordinators do really creative stuff with their defensive line, and then I'm watching us going, where's all this Ryan Nielsen stuff that I heard about? Where's all this Ryan Nielsen stuff I heard so much about in the offseason? I thought that he was here specifically to help Bobby Babich with his game plan, and so far it has not gone well. This is a real week for them to redeem themselves. Either way, it's just a great time to be alive with a line like ours. I hope we don't have to. I hope we're not sitting here next week agonizing about that topic. Okay. I hope that this is a game where Bobby Babbitt can get the monkey off his back and really come out and show that he's capable of putting together adequate pressure packages against a team that's not the New York Jets with Justin Fields. Okay. Do it twice. You did it once. Cool. Maybe that's a fluke. Do it twice. You do it twice against lesser than teams and make them look that way. All right. I'll stop criticizing you so much. Until then, Chris, I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your Rockpile Report.